Today's learning is sponsored by David Rose, in memory of his father, Chana Moshe ben Reuven Halevi. To sponsor a day of learning, send me an email. Okay, we're on Kilayim Perek Tet Mishnah Bet. Perek Tet Mishnah Bet. We're talking about Kilayim Beged, Kilayim of the garment, of clothing. Says the Mishnah, Shirayim v'hakalach ein behem mishum Kilayim. What is Shirayim kalach? Let's look at the Bartunura. Minim shel meshihem. They're kinds of silk. V'hakalach gadil b'karchei hayam v'tavninto kitavnit hazahav. Okay, so the Shirayim is silk that looks like flax, and kalach was silk that looked like wool. So the Mishnah says, obviously, ein mishum kilayim, aval asur mipnei maritayim, but it's prohibited because it looks like maritayim means it looks like you're doing something that's asur. So therefore, since it looked like Sha'atnez, people would say, hey, the guy can't wear, is wearing Sha'atnez, that's prohibited, you can't do that. Says the Bartunura, aval asurim, da'ati la'achlufe b'tzemer upishtim. Because people will think you're going to come and switch it for wool and linen. But he says that since meshi, silk, in the times of the Mishnah was very uncommon, people didn't recognize it and they would come to switch. Therefore it was prohibited because of marita ayin. But now that we have silk, all that we know silk, but when everybody recognized it, there is no prohibition of silk and wool or silk and linen. The same is true of hemp. So therefore the Bartunura says that halacha was in the time of the Mishnah, where people didn't recognize that it was silk. So it was a problem of marita ayin, but today we don't have such a problem. Hakarim v'haksatot. Karim are pillows and ksatot it's like comforters. It's unclear whether one was a pillow and one was like a mattress kind of thing, whatever, it was used for bedding. Ein be'em mishum kilayim. There's no problem if they're made of wool and linen. Ubilvaj lo yibsaro nogea b'hem. As long as you're not touching it. Why? Because we're going to, as we'll see, let's look at the Bartunura. Ein be'em mishum kilayim. Why? Because you're doing l'asuyim l'shchiva. You're lying on it. Torah amra. Lo ya'aleh alecha, you can't wear it. Aval ata mutar latzio tachtecha, but you can put it under you. V'animili kashem kashim v'reikanim, if they are hard and empty. Unutinim gal gabei itztaba. Itztaba, I didn't know that word, so I looked it up. The gesture says itztaba is something to recline on, a couch or a seat. So if you place it on an itztaba, that's fine. Where am I? Azei mutarim, then it's permitted. Aval imim rakim, if they're soft, or meleim, or full. Okay? Afilu bekanim munachim al gabei amita. But if they're empty and you lay them a sheet on the bed, afilu esem etzaudzo gabazo. Even if you have 10 more sheets on it, uklaim tachtehem, and the Kilayim is at the bottom, asur lishen ala, you can't sleep on it. Lefi shenichpapim tachtav, they become folded under you. V'nichrachim al besaro. And then they become wrapped onto your body, and that becomes a kind of wearing it. Okay, so therefore, there's no problem of using it as on something hard where it won't fold over. But if it's something that might be soft or full that would fold over on your body, then there's a problem of kilayim. Okay, as long as your body doesn't touch it, the Mishnah says. Ein aray l'kilayim. There's no such thing as I'm just wearing it for a minute. This is a total misconception that people have. Right? You cannot try on a suit that's kilayim. The only reason we're allowed to go to the men's warehouse and try on a suit is because we assume the majority of suits are not kilayim. But if you have a strong suspicion that it is kilayim, you can't put it on. It's because ein aray. There's no such thing as temporary. Reminds me of the people think, I don't have to tovel the first time. Untrue. You have to tovel the first time. Similarly, there's no such thing as I get one free shot in kilayim. V'lo yilbash kilayim. Now we're going to have a very interesting piece of the Mishnah that's sociological, fascinating. Comment of the Mishnah about not only about Kilayim, but about the time of the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, "V'lo yilbash Kilayim afilu al gabei asara." You're not allowed to wear Kilayim. Let's say I want to put on a jacket, and then another jacket, and another jacket, and another jacket, etc., etc. And so therefore, I'm not going to benefit from it. The 10th jacket isn't helping me; it's hurting me. And the reason I'm wearing it is because not to wear it, but afilu lignov et hamechas, even to steal from the taxes. Whoa, what? I'll read it again. You can't wear kilayim even over 10 other garments. Afilu lignov et hamechas, even if you only want to steal the meches. Why would you want to wear 10 garments to steal meches? So the Bartanura gives two understandings. I like his second one. I'll give you both. Okay? He says, Afilu agabe asara, I'm not benefiting. It's making me sweat like crazy. Even if I only want to do it to steal the meches, to steal from the taxes. Why would you do this? I saw miksad me rabutai. We're going to come back to this term, okay? Where Jews have to pay taxes to an individual tax collector who's acting on his own initiative, and I'll explain to you why he says this in a brief moment. So he's wearing kilayim so people won't know he's Jewish, because everybody knows Jews don't wear woolen linen. So if the guy sees him and he won't know he's Jewish, he won't stop him. He says, that's one shot. I think lignovat meches. Why do I steal meches? Meches is a very common term in Israel. In Israel here, meches means taxes. It means import tax. Because it's like when you go in the airport, in Ben Gurion Airport, there's like the green and the red, right? They don't take meches on what you're wearing. They take meches on the goods that you're importing. So therefore, if I'm wearing 10 jackets, I'm wearing 10 jackets. Okay? So he says, I'll just add on, Ustam Mishnah zo davar she'eno mitkaven asur. This is a davar she'eno mitkaven. We see this term in halacha and Shabbat. What if I do something, but I'm not using it for its intended purpose? Here, for example, I'm wearing the clothing, but normally a person wears clothes for protection, for warmth, for whatever. Here, I'm not wearing the clothes in order to gain benefit from the clothes. I'm wearing the clothes in order to avoid paying taxes. Nonetheless, I'm still wearing it. That's called davar she'eno mitkaven. And so here we say, this is according to the opinion that davar she'eno mitkaven is prohibited. Okay, that's the end of the Mishnah. If you want to stop here, you can. I have to stop and talk about the idea of afilu lignov et hameches. Because the Mishnah is clearly implying that normally you can't wear kilayim even on 10, even if you only want to steal the meches. I.e., the implication really is that stealing from the meches is legitimate. If you don't want to steal from the meches, normally we would understand why you'd want to wear the clothes in order to get out of paying taxes. If it's Kilayim, we can't let you do it because it's a problem of Kilayim. But the Mishnah is clearly advocating stealing taxes. How could this possibly be? So, this isn't the only example. There's a number of different examples. The best documentation of this is the Gemara in Baba Kama. This is from Baba Kama. You can't see the whole thing, sorry. Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Gemara Baba Kama Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Okay? And this is from the Mishnah in the middle of Daf Kuf Yud Gimel. The Mishnah says, "En portin lo miteva tamuchasin v'lo mikishol gabayim." You can't take change from the teva, from the tax collector's pushka, from his box. Why? Because we assume that you're benefiting from stolen money. So the Gemara implies clearly umuchasin. The Gemara implies clearly that money from taxes was stolen. So this again implies that a person who could avoid paying taxes, the Mishnah, should pay tax, should avoid it. Says the Mishnah, Muchasin, V'amar Shmuel Dina de Malchuta Dina. There's a very famous halachic term, Dina de Malchuta Dina. You've all heard this. It comes up in many different contexts. Dina de Malchuta Dina states, I just want to make it a little bigger. Oh, here we go. Dina de Malchuta Dina means the law of the land is the law. A Jew can't say, halachically I don't have to pay taxes because there's no rule in the Torah that I have to pay taxes to the American government. Because we apply the rule of Dina de Malchuta Dina. So the Gemara is saying, how in the more can the Mishnah say that meches is stolen? Dina de Malchuta Dina, they have the right to take taxes. Amar Rav Chanina bar Kahana Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel said that the Mishnah must be talking about b'mochez she'elo kitzba. It's a tax collector who's not collecting for the government based on the laws. He can collect whatever taxes he wants. So he goes crazy and he just collects out of control. And this is a well-known phenomenon that people would take advantage of the Jews and take taxes. The Rabbi Yanai says, "B'moches ha'omed me'elav." It's not even a government-appointed tax collector; it's a self-appointed tax collector. So that guy is just—he's a warlord. He is a local ruler, and it's not legal at all. So trying to get out of taxes makes a lot of sense. So the Mishnah says, that is the answer of Shmuel to the Mishnah seems to imply don't pay taxes. Shmuel says, no, do pay taxes. Dina de Malchuta Dina. You have to pay taxes in the land, but what are you going to do if the tax collector is acting on his own initiative and basically stealing from the Jews? Then that's what the Mishnah is talking about. That's when you try to get out of it. The Gemara continues and quotes our exact Mishnah. Some learn that which Shmuel said, on this Mishnah. Lo yilbash adam kilayim afil agabe asara begadim. A person shouldn't wear Kilayim even on 10 clothes, even if you're just trying to get out of taxes. So the Gemara says, hey, matniti deloka Rabbi Akiva. It's not like Rabbi Akiva. Detanya, because Rabbi Akiva says, the Tanakama says, asur lavriach hatameches. You can't try to get out of paying taxes. Rabbi Shimon, Omer Mishum Rabbi Akiva, this is Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, says the name of Rabbi Akiva, mutar lavriach hatameches. Rabbi Akiva says, get out of taxes, don't pay taxes, you have to cheat on your taxes. So the Gemara says, this is not like Rabbi Akiva. Bishlam al inyan kilayim, for kilayim, ba'akam and maybe they say, Mar savar davar she'eni mitkavein mutar. Umar savar davar she'eni mitkavein asur. Remember, we talked about the idea you're wearing the clothes to get out of paying taxes. So the kilayim issue might be a question of davar she'eni mitkavein or not. Ela lavriach ba'ot hameches misharei. But is a person allowed to try to get out of paying taxes? Ve'ha'amar Shmuel dina d'malchuta dina. Shmuel said dina d'malchuta dina. So the Gemara answer is, now this is Shmuel's answer. Amar Rav Chena bar Kahana, Amar Shmuel, b'mocheh she'en lo kitzba. Oh, that's Shmuel's answer. Why did Rabbi Akiva say you're allowed to get out of paying taxes? Because the tax collector has no limits. He's just taking crazy taxes. Or the second answer, Debei Rabbi Yanai Amrei b'mocheh sa'omed me'ilav. It's a self-appointed tax collector. You don't have to pay. And then there's another example, another Mishnah the Gemara says, a third example where the Mishnah again encourages a person to get out of paying taxes. So we see we have a very fascinating, clear Mishnaic indication that says avoiding taxes is a good thing. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai say don't pay taxes. And then the Gemara, in the name of Shmuel, comes along and tries to mitigate that and minimize it and says, no, normally dina d'malchuta dina, but in certain cases where the tax collector is going crazy or he's breaking the law himself, that's when the Mishnah is talking about avoiding taxes. There's a very simple answer to this distinction between the Mishnah and Shmuel. Rav Safrai, in his book, he says explicitly the following. The Mishnah is talking about, especially remember, what do we know historically about Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai? Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai were no fans of paying taxes for a very specific reason. Where and when did they live? They lived in the time of Roman hegemony. They vary by themselves. Rabbi Shimon, I didn't copy you the text. Rav Safrai says they deny the legitimacy of the Roman government to take taxes. They deny the legitimacy of the Romans to have any presence, any government in the land of Israel. They didn't want the Romans there at all. So they said, of course the person should avoid paying taxes. Who are these Romans? What have the Romans done for... No, they didn't say that, but the Romans have no legitimacy. And they wouldn't impose the rule of dina de malchuta dina because there is no dina. The malchut is not legitimate. On the other hand, where was Shmuel? Shmuel lived in Bavel. In Bavel, nobody has any claims that the Jews should be ruling in Bavel. In Bavel, you're there at the behest of the Babylonians. Dina de malchuta dina. Therefore, the rule of dina de malchuta dina applies. And that's why Shmuel had to mitigate the Mishnah. And one can readily understand how complicated this was, especially later in Christian times. As Safrai says, later on, the Christians knew very well about this. And they would come to the Jews and say, do you pay taxes or don't you pay taxes? This is something the Rishonim had to deal with all the time. And obviously, they had to adhere to dina de malchuta dina. This has very interesting implications, because what's interesting is that the more you are connected to the essential text, the more you realize that the Masorah was you didn't paying taxes, getting out of taxes is from the times of the Mishnah. The only problem is that those people, generally people who say these things, they're not the most Eretz Yisraeli kind of people. They don't believe in the government of the Jews of the state of Israel. Because the reason why Rabbi Akiva said don't pay taxes is because he believed in a Jewish government. And he would find the idea of not paying taxes to a Jewish government the height of hypocrisy and total geneva. He would never encourage it. Nonetheless, some people quote this ethic of the Mishnah of afilu ligdal bina meches in order to steal from the Jewish government, which is a terrible thing. I've spoken way too long. I hope you found that interesting. I find these sugya just in the past few days so fascinating. We'll dedicate the learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. If you have any questions, arspolter@gmail.com. Have a great day.